talk about overcoming adversity. And there's someone before I start that I want to introduce, Richard Collier. Richard's a friend of mine and a great example of someone who has overcome adversity in a big way. Richard was in his third year going into the NFL with the Jaguars. I was a head athletic trainer and physical therapist, and Rich was entering his third season in the NFL as an offensive lineman. Great guy, hard worker, love him to death. In September 2nd, 2008, he was shot 14 times. And next time I saw Richard was in intensive care. And I'm holding his left hand. His mom's holding his right hand when he first came to. And it was a very powerful moment for all of us there. And Richard ended up, he's paralyzed from the chest down and lost one of his legs and had an attitude of swinging back into life and raising a beautiful family. And Richard said something to me very amazing. He said, this accident was something I'm very thankful for because it made me a better man, a better father, and a better husband. To go through that is amazing. I have a ton of respect for Richard and what he's been through, the person, the man he is, the father he is. And today we're going to be talking about overcoming adversity. And when we look at that, I have what I call a plan. But when you're dealing with a really traumatic issue, I've had athletes on the field that have been paralyzed, thank God, just temporarily. But when you're dealing with someone has huge adversity or an issue, the first pulse you need to take is your own. You have to be controlled. You have to be content. You have to be well prepared and have that strong mind. The strong body part of it goes without saying. You have the flexibility. You have the inner strength. You have the ability to do the things you need to do to overcome those adversities. So strong mind and strong body kind of sets the stage when adversity comes, and it can come in very many different forms, really helps you prepare for it when those things come. What's that, as far as that plan, what's the L stand for? Learn. Learn your obstacles. What are those obstacles? Know thy enemy, so to speak. Well, as we said, some of those obstacles we know. We know what's coming. We know we have these issues. We got a big obstacle course race. We know we're going to have the rope climb. We know we're going to have to carry something heavy. In Earl's case, who's going to carry Cindy? Those obstacles, you kind of know they're coming. Some obstacles you don't really know. Some of them come out of the blue. And you have to be prepared for those. But learning thy enemy, learning the obstacles that are there. Well, think about it. Think for a moment. Close your eyes for a second. And think about, with your eyes closed, think about some of the obstacles that have come your way. What have created some of those bigger challenges? What were those obstacles? And I ask you, were those bigger obstacles that you really face, were they external? Were they a roadside bomb? Were they an obstacle course? Were they a car accident? Were they external? But here comes the kind of uncomfortable part. Were those obstacles internal? Were those the stresses in your life? Were those mindsets? You can open your eyes now. Were those internal? We now, a beautiful thing is mental health issues are kind of put out into the open. And we're able to look at those and evaluate those, both with our kids, with ourselves, with our parents. But those internal obstacles are kind of challenging because you're kind of forced to deal with something you really can't put your hands on. You got a shoulder injury, you have a broken bone, you can put your hands on those, you can put an x-ray up, you can look at an MRI. You have those tools to look at those external obstacles sometimes. But those internal ones are a little uncomfortable. You can't really put your hand on. Is it an abuse issue? Is it a mindset? Is it an attitude? Is it low self-esteem? Well, too often we take those internal ones and they're just going to get better. And I say to you that L, and learn about your obstacles, is those internal ones, you have to spend time in those. And I'm a big fan of mental therapy and meeting with people. I went through some issues myself when I was much younger, and I went through therapy, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go through this, and I don't need it, head shrink or all that kind of stuff. And I remember the first time I went to one of those, and I walked out of a therapy appointment, and I literally felt 1,000 pounds lighter because I could finally speak. I could finally get it off my mind. And I see a lot of heads nodding. I think a lot of people in the room have done the same thing. So when you look at obstacles, that learn part about, don't forget about the internal obstacles, because in a lot of ways, that's what's going to give us the biggest benefits. That's going to give us the better ability to prepare for those things when they do come. We can't just keep kicking that can down the road. Okay? The A stands for attack. Attack your carrot. Attack your carrot. What I mean by that is Most of the motivations for us are pleasure or pain. Pleasure or pain. That pleasure is that carrot, that goal, finish the race, get that college degree, find the dream of my life. The pain part is, man, I don't want to be embarrassed out there. I don't want to go through those things. I just can't face this thing. This thing is giving me trouble. Pleasure or pain. In 26 years in the NFL, I used to love to talk to players about, Rich and I would just talk about this earlier, about some of the questions I'd ask in the athletic training when we started talking about things other than football. And I used to love to ask players, what's more motivating for you, your will to win or your fear of losing? And it was really cool what people would say. And you think about it in your own life. Is it more the pleasure or the pain? And generally speaking, when it comes to NFL players, and I've worked with a lot of them, some in the Hall of Fame, happy to see Tony Baselli is one of them now. But for the most part, the offensive players were all about winning. They wanted to score. I used to have one great quarterback used to say to me, man, as long as I score, as long as I'm doing the thing, I'm giving my best effort, and I stink the place up, I'm not too worried about it. His will to win was dominating. Where defensive players tend to be a little bit more that fear of losing. I had a linebacker who's in the NFL, and he in the Hall of Fame, and he used to say, man, I've used much less colorful language than he did. But he'd say, man, if I stink the place up and I get embarrassed, it'll haunt me for weeks. So defensive players tend to play that fear of losing. But ask yourself, what's more motivating, your will to win or your fear of losing? So when we talk about that, attack your carrot, I'm a much bigger fan of hang that carrot out there, hang that goal out there, something that you could do, something that you can get after, something that you can visualize. That tends to be a much more powerful motivator. Because those motivators, your carrot, internally is much more powerful than an external stimulation. Examples of that. If you have pride, if you want to show your kids great things that you're doing, those are internal motivators. Well, some of those external motivators that aren't really healthy are like social media, a scale, your high school jeans that you used to wear, you look in the mirror, I look like I gained some weight. All those external motivators are not very powerful in a positive way. They tend to be very negative. They tend to draw you down a little bit. I feel good. I'm on a great exercise program. I feel like I lost some weight, but you're in Florida. You have to hydrate really well. Your body cycle may change a little bit, and you get on the scale and you're 2 pounds heavy. You're like, that's been a waste of time. And suddenly you drop yourself down. Meantime, you may have lost body fat. You may have got a better attitude. You feel better about yourself, but an inanimate object, a number on that scale just shot you down. It made it look like what you did was a waste of time. So making those positive motivators more internal are much more successful. Another part of that is if this plan, prepare, learn, attack, and navigate, this is at this point, we're attacking our carrot. If we prepared well, and if we learned about our obstacles, man, this is where we flourish. This is where we put on our big boy pants or our big girl pants, and we flourish. Man, we get after it. We attack what we had to do because we're prepared well, and we learn well. Man, it's game time. What happens if we didn't really prepare well, and we didn't really learn about our obstacles? We don't know what those obstacles are. Maybe some internal, we kind of forgot about that. Well, this is where we struggle. This is where we may get re-injured. This is where we get frustrated. This is where we lose a lot of money because we have to keep going back to those doctors and get more tests done and do all these kind of things because we didn't prepare and learn. And like my wife will say, if I'm not exercising and working out, I'm not easy to live with. So if we're doing it right this way, we're easy to live with. And again, we don't get depressed. We don't get more frustrated. We all been there. That old vicious cycle brings us downhill. So we prepare, we learn, and then we attack our carrot. The last one is to navigate. Navigate a new plan. Things have changed. Your world has changed. We just came out of this pandemic. Everything has changed. It's a beautiful sight to see people sitting this close to each other. And we can get in gatherings like this because, man, we spent a couple of years of living on eggshells and being in a tough way. Now we have to navigate a new plan. Richard had to navigate a new plan. Earl had to navigate a new plan. We all have those issues that we have to do. And navigating a new plan is really kind of the ultimate finish line for what we need to do going forward. Okay? So that new plan is the exciting part of it because you're navigating, you're figuring out where you need to go and where you want to go. Again, that pleasure or pain kind of thing. Where do you want to be? What's the end result? I'm a huge fan of reverse engineering, meaning find out where you want to go or what you want and work your way backwards. Man, I want to be in a new relationship. I want to have really healthy physical people around me. I want to have a positive attitude. I want to be able to sleep deeper. What do I need to do? I want to do that in 6 months. And then you back up. What do I need to do from there? Reverse it. Okay. I got a lot of people around that may be a little bit more negative and they're not really healthy. Maybe I got to kind of move them away and find some healthy people. Then you back it up here. Before I find those healthy people, man, maybe I got to tighten up my attitude. Maybe people tell me I'm a little down or Debbie Downer kind of attitude. Maybe I got to improve my attitude. Maybe it's time to work on my internal obstacles first. And if I do that, then I can meet more healthy people. When I do, I can work out with them, not just sit there and look at them sweat and I'm standing on the sideline. Does that make sense? So again, we prepare well. We know what we're looking at. We learn about those obstacles and what are challenging us. Because again, we want to get over this adversity. Because if we learn about our obstacles, guess what that does? That allows us to get through this obstacle and to come up with a whole new plan that's going to keep us from returning. Because how often do we get into that cycle where suddenly we do it, we're right back where we were before? Why do we keep coming back to this spot? So if we put things to bed and we truly corrected the problem and we just didn't brush it under the rug, we're addressing what we have. So we have a new prepare component. We learn about the obstacles. We attack our carrot. Again, that pleasure that we're going to hang out there, not the negative part behind us. Okay? And we're navigating a new plan. It sets us up for success. And in closing, I want to tell you a powerful quote that Richard gave me. We talked, and I said to him, because think about it, Richard's a young man getting ready to go into the NFL for his third year. All these great things are going on, and boom, in an instant, he's paralyzed, lost his leg, his life has changed. And I said, Richard, how difficult was it for you to not play the what if game? What if this and what if that? It's easy to say as a professional athlete, everything changed in an instant. And he said something very, very powerful to me. He didn't hesitate. With full conviction, he said to me, Mike, I don't play the what if game. The what if game is a hypothetical life. I don't live in hypothetical. I live in life. Life is reality. The reality is Richard's an amazing man. You're amazing individuals to be here at this whole weekend's event, and I appreciate and thank you for your time.